My parents didn't notice I moved out for a year, then demanded me to fly home for brother's wedding to save the family image. I didn't show up. Their lies exploded in front of the in-laws, marriage drama started immediately, and their entire reputation went up in flames. Sup Reddit. My parents always treated me like the backup kid. So, I packed up, left town, and built a life without them. Thought that was the end of it. Turns out, they had other plans. Before we get there, let me start from the beginning. My name's Daniel. I'm 34 now, but back then I was 33, stuck in the same small town I grew up in. The kind of place where everyone knows your business before you even park your car. I had a decent job working in IT security for a mid-sized company, good enough pay, decent benefits, but I worked remote most of the time, so it didn't really matter where I lived. I wasn't married, no kids, just me and a beat-up Ford truck I bought used 5 years ago. I wasn't out there breaking rules or giving my parents hell. I was quiet. Always did what I was told. Got good grades, stayed out of trouble. But in my house, none of that really mattered, because I had a younger brother, Travis, who was basically the center of the universe. He was the golden boy. Or the athlete, the one my parents posted about on Facebook every other week. Me? I was background noise. It didn't matter if I brought home an A+ or an award. They barely looked up from whatever Travis had going on. I'll give you an example. When I was 14, I won first place at the regional science fair. Big deal for me. My teacher told my parents the award ceremony was Saturday morning. Said it would mean a lot if they came. My mom said, "Oh, that's the same day as Travis's soccer tournament. Maybe we can come after the game." They didn't. I stood there holding this little gold trophy while other kids' parents clapped and took pictures. Mine never showed up. When I got home later, my mom asked if they gave out snacks at the event. That was all she cared about. It was like that over and over. High school graduation? They came late, left early because Travis's team had an end-of-season dinner. I drove myself to Denny's, still wearing my cap and gown, sitting at the counter eating pancakes by myself while other families filled the booths. By the time I was in my 20s, I figured out where I stood. I didn't plan some dramatic exit, I just decided I was done. I was tired of living in the same town where every time I bought groceries, someone asked how my amazing family was doing. People who had no clue. I picked Miami because it was about as far as I could get while staying in the country. Sunshine, beaches, no winters. It sounded like starting over. Packing day was chaos in the way moving always is. My friend Marco showed up late with 2 coffees. My other friend Lisa kept tripping over the packing tape because she refused to tie her hair back. At one point, we realized the mattress wasn't going to fit through the stairwell without bending it in half. We laughed about it. The kind of laugh that comes half from frustration, half because you know this day is going to stick in your head forever. That's when my dad drove by. Same silver SUV he's had for years. He slowed down just enough to see me carrying a box of dishes, looked right at me, and kept driving, pretending he hadn't seen a thing. Didn't wave. Didn't ask what was going on. Just kept going like I was a stranger moving out of some random apartment. The apartment felt weird when it was empty. I didn't have a lot to begin with. A second-hand couch, a mismatched set of dishes, a bed frame I got off Craigslist. When we loaded the last box, I walked through one more time. Not because I was sentimental, but because I wanted to make sure I didn't leave anything behind. Marco handed me the keys to the U-Haul. "You sure about this, man?" "Yeah," I said. I was sure. The drive to Miami took 2 days. We split it between the 3 of us, swapping seats at rest stops, living on gas station snacks and bad coffee. Somewhere in Georgia, the radio stopped picking up stations, so Marco played the same playlist off his phone until I threatened to throw it out the window. We got to Miami late on a Sunday. My new apartment wasn't much. 1 bedroom, tiny balcony, kitchen with appliances old enough to belong in a museum. The kind of place where the light switches are all in weird spots. But it was mine. We carried everything up 3 flights of stairs because the elevator had an out-of-service sign taped to it. By the time we got the last box inside, we were drenched in sweat and running on 2 hours of sleep. I offered to cook something, realized all I had was pasta and a jar of sauce, and promptly burned the garlic in the pan because the stove was one of those electric ones that goes from off to inferno in about 3 seconds. We ate it anyway, sitting on the floor because I didn't have chairs yet. It tasted awful. We still laughed about it. The building was old and the landlord was slow. A week in, I started tightening squeaky hinges and relatching the shared back gate. Nobody asked me to. I just can't stand broken things. After they left the next morning, the apartment felt too quiet. I set up my bed, unpacked some clothes, tried to make the place look less like a storage unit, got groceries, bought a fan because the AC barely worked. I didn't know anyone in the city, except for a guy from work I'd only met on Zoom. But every time I looked around, even at the peeling paint and the view of the parking lot, I kept thinking, this is mine. No one can tell me to leave. No one can ignore me here. That night, my grandma called. She never waits for permission, just calls. Hey, sweetheart, she said. You all settled in? Mostly. Got lost twice trying to find the grocery store. She laughed. As long as you found it eventually. She didn't ask why I left. She already knew. Before we hung up, she said, I'm proud of you, you know. That was the first time in years anyone in my family had said that to me. 1 year later, on a random Tuesday afternoon, my phone started buzzing in my pocket while tightening the latch on the shared back gate behind the building. Unknown number, but with my hometown's area code. I almost ignored it, figuring it was a telemarketer. At the last second, I swiped to answer, tucking the phone between my ear and shoulder while lining up the latch plate. Daniel? My father's voice. I froze for half a second before setting the drill down. Yeah? It's Dad. Like I wouldn't recognize the voice of the man who hadn't called me once in a full year. He didn't ask how I was. Didn't ask why I left or how Miami was treating me. Instead, he jumped straight into it. We need you to come home next month. Travis's wedding. Big deal. His fiance's parents are well, they're important people. Family should be together for something like this. Not even a how have you been, son. Just an order delivered like I was still 17 waiting for permission to borrow the car. I leaned against the gate, staring at the half-seated latch. I can't make it. There was a pause, like he couldn't believe I'd said no. You can't make it? His voice sharpened. This family isn't complete without you. Everyone will be there. Your mother, your cousins, even Uncle Rick is flying in from Texas. You're really going to be the one missing? I've got work, I said flatly. It wasn't even a lie. I had a project launching that week, but honestly, even if I didn't, I wasn't about to fly back across the country just to sit at a table so he could pretend we were one big happy family. You moved away without telling anyone, he said suddenly, voice rising. Do you have any idea how selfish that was? Your mother was embarrassed when people asked where you were. We had to make excuses. I almost laughed at that. Funny, considering he literally slowed past my U-Haul and acted blind. You didn't even notice for a year. That's not the point, he snapped. It kind of is, I said, keeping my tone calm because I knew it drove him nuts when I didn't yell back. If it was really that big of a deal, maybe someone would have called before now. He ignored that completely. Look, these people Travis is marrying into, they're very traditional. They expect to meet the whole family. You showing up matters. We need to present ourselves properly. There it was, not about me, not about wanting to see me or catch up or hear about my life. Just about presenting the family like we were auditioning for something. I wiped sweat off my forehead with the back of my arm. You're asking me to fly across a few states for people I've never met just so you can look good in front of them? It's about respect, Daniel. Something you clearly don't understand anymore. I stayed quiet for a second, staring at the fence. My father hated silence during arguments. He always filled it. Living out there by yourself, like some hermit in the woods. I live in Miami, I cut in. Not exactly the woods. It's not healthy, he barreled on. Family sticks together. We support each other. That's how it's supposed to work. I couldn't help it. I laughed. A short, sharp sound. Since when? You didn't come to my graduation. You skipped the science fair. Half the time you forgot my birthday. Now suddenly family unity matters because Travis is getting married? That was different, he said stiffly. Right, different. I bent down, picked up the drill again. I'm not coming. The silence this time lasted longer. I could almost picture him clenching his jaw on the other end. You realize, he said finally, voice low, if you don't show up for this wedding, you can forget about inheriting anything from this family. Don't expect a dime when we're gone. I actually laughed for real then. You think I need your money? You don't have nearly as much as you think you do. I make more than enough, I said. Got a place of my own. Paid off my truck. Got savings. I'm fine. You're bluffing, he snapped. If you ever asked about my life, I said, you'd know I'm not. For the first time in the whole conversation, he didn't have a quick comeback. I heard him inhale like he wanted to yell but couldn't find the words. Travis will be disappointed, he said finally, voice stiff. He'll survive, I said. Then I hung up before he could say anything else. A whole year without a single call, text, or email. And the first time he bothered reaching out, it was to bark orders like nothing had happened. I wiped the sawdust off my hands and went inside, grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge, and sat down on the floor because I still hadn't bought a couch. I kept putting it off. My phone buzzed again a few minutes later. I didn't even look at it. After my dad hung up, I thought that would be it. A whole year of nothing. Then one call, one fight, and back to silence. I was wrong. That night, my phone lit up again while I was eating leftover pasta straight from the pot. Mom's name. I didn't answer. A minute later, the voicemail notification popped up. "Danny, it's your mother," she said, in that tight, dramatic tone she always used when she wanted something. "I can't believe you spoke to your father like that. Do you have any idea how this makes us look? People will be talking. You need to come to this wedding. Call me back." I didn't. It was the first week of next month, about 3 weeks from that call. The next morning, another one. "Danny, please. Don't ruin this for your brother. Everyone will be asking where you are. His fiancé's parents are very proper people. We can't have them thinking there's something wrong in our family." There was. They just didn't want anyone else seeing it. I deleted that voicemail too. By Friday, the calls kept stacking up. I finally stopped checking them. My phone sounded like a slot machine every few hours. Calls, texts, voicemails, all saying the same thing. Not once asking how I was doing or why I left in the first place. Saturday evening, my brother finally called. I didn't pick up at first, but he tried again 5 minutes later. Then again. I sighed and answered on the fourth try. "Dan," he said, voice too casual, too calm. "Look, I know Mom can be a bit much sometimes, but you know how she gets. Just come for me, not them." "For you?" I asked. "Yeah, it's my wedding, man. Don't make it about Mom and Dad. Just come, have dinner, smile for some pictures, then go back to whatever it is you do out there. Live my life," I said flatly. He ignored that. "It's one night. You can suck it up for one night." I leaned back in my chair. "Where were you when I graduated college? Or when I moved? Did you ever call? Text? Anything?" He went quiet for a second. "This is different," he said finally. It wasn't. Monday evening, I called Grandma. She always answered on the second ring. "They're driving me nuts," I said, before she could even say hello. She chuckled softly. "I figured they might. A year with no word, and now they all remember your number?" "Pretty much. They only call when they need something," she said. "Otherwise, you could disappear off the map, and they'd keep setting the same table for dinner like nothing was missing." She wasn't wrong. I spent the next morning snugging the hinges on the shared back gate, sun beating down hard enough to make my shirt stick. I was halfway through tightening the last hinge when I heard the sound of tires on gravel. The silver SUV pulled into the lot. My stomach dropped before I even saw who was behind the wheel. Dad. Of course. I hadn't given the address to anyone but Grandma and HR. Grandma told me later she gave it to him after he pressed her. He parked fast, climbed out, and slammed the door like he was arriving for a fight. Same work boots, same button-down shirt, same look on his face like the world owed him something. "Daniel!" he barked. "We need to talk." I set the wrench down slowly. "You drove all the way here? You wouldn't answer the phone," he said, already marching past me toward the apartment, like he owned the place. I followed him inside. He stopped dead center in the living room, looking around like he'd just walked into a dumpster. "This is it?" he said, disgust dripping from his voice. "This is what you left home for?" "It's mine," I said. "Temporary," he muttered. "You could have had a real house back home. Something respectable. But no, you run off for this." He waved a hand at the walls like they personally insulted him. I crossed my arms. "Why are you here, Dad?" "You know why," he snapped. "Travis's wedding is in 3 weeks. You need to be there. His fiancé's family is already asking questions. You're making us look like fools." I shook my head. "I told you I'm not going." His jaw tightened. "You think this is a choice? That you can just embarrass us in front of everyone? That family means nothing to you?" I almost laughed. "Family means nothing to you. I paid my own way through college. Got my own job, my own place. You didn't give me anything." His face turned red. "We gave you a roof, food on the table. Congrats," I said flatly. "You did the bare minimum." That's when he stepped closer. "Watch your mouth." I didn't move. "Or what?" He grabbed the front of my shirt with both hands. "You're coming back," he growled. "Pack your things. I'm not letting you ruin this wedding because of some childish grudge." I shoved his hands off me, harder than I meant to. He stumbled back a step. "Touch me again and we're done for good," I said. He pointed a finger at me like I was 12 years old. "You owe this family." "I don't owe you anything," I cut in. The neighbor from across the hall chose that exact moment to walk by carrying groceries. She slowed down, eyes flicking between us. "Everything okay?" she asked carefully. My dad straightened instantly, fake smile snapping into place. Oh, just a family disagreement, he said lightly, voice smooth as butter. She looked at me. I nodded once, letting her keep walking. As soon as her door shut, his smile vanished. You're coming if I have to drag you there myself, he hissed. Try it, I said. For a second, I thought he actually might. Instead, he started pacing the room. Do you have any idea what people will say if you're not there? They'll think something's wrong with this family. There is something wrong with this family, I said. He stopped, glared at me. I stepped forward. You didn't notice when I moved away for a year. Didn't call, didn't visit, didn't care. But now, because it makes you look bad, suddenly I matter? This isn't about appearances, he snapped. It's only about appearances, I shot back. You don't want me there. You want the idea of me there. A full family photo. A nice story to tell the in-laws. He slammed his hand on the counter. Families stick together when it counts. I didn't move. Families stick together all the time, Dad. Not just when strangers are watching. For once, he didn't have a comeback. His mouth opened, then closed again. Pack your things, he said coldly. We're leaving tonight. I almost laughed. You think you can order me around like I'm still under your roof? You keep this up, don't expect to be in the will. I crossed my arms. You keep this up, don't expect me to care. His face went red again. You're throwing away your family over pride. I shook my head. No, I'm done letting you treat me like furniture you move around when guests come over. We stared at each other for a long moment before he finally spun toward the door. This isn't over, he said. I locked it behind him anyway. Outside, I heard his SUV start, tires squealing as he peeled out of the lot. The apartment was quiet, but the air still felt heavy, like the walls had soaked up everything we'd just said. For 2 weeks after he showed up, the wedding day came. I didn't fly back, didn't send a card, didn't even text my brother. That morning, I was under my kitchen sink fixing a leak while my family was 3 states away tying themselves in knots. I figured I wouldn't hear much until after. I was wrong. Grandma called before I'd even finished dinner. She walked me through it. What follows is, as she told it to me later. Well, she said the second I picked up, you made the right call not going. I leaned back in my chair. That bad? She gave a short laugh. Your parents were scrambling before the ceremony even started. People kept asking where you were. Every relative, every family friend. They didn't know what story to stick with. I could picture it clearly. Mom in her pale blue dress, clutching a champagne flute too tight, Dad already sweating through his collar before the vows even started. What did they tell people? I asked. Grandma snorted. Depends on who asked. First it was you were sick. Then you had to work. Then something about a last-minute trip. By the time the third cousin asked, the stories didn't even line up anymore. I could hear it in my head. Mom insisting I had the flu while Dad swore I was stuck at some conference in Chicago. 2 completely different excuses in the same room. People bought that? I asked. Oh no, Grandma said. Not for a second. She told me the bride's father asked the first real question during dinner. Right there at the table. Full voice, no hesitation. So why did we only hear about this other son 2 weeks ago? I laughed out loud. No. Oh yes, Grandma said. Your mother's smile froze so hard I thought it might crack right off her face. Your dad tried to jump in with some excuse about you living far away, but it came out a mess. Something about you traveling for work. He was sweating like he ran there. I could see it. Dad stammering about me being busy, while the bride's father raised one eyebrow across the table. And the bride's mom? I asked. She just kept looking at your mother, Grandma said. Didn't even blink, like she was staring straight through her. Apparently, the bride herself kept asking Travis questions, too. Why wasn't he at the engagement party? Why didn't I hear about him sooner? She asked between photo sessions. Travis said I was busy with work, same as Dad. But Grandma said the bride didn't look convinced for a second. She smiled, Grandma told me. But it was that tight kind of smile where you know she doesn't believe a word of it. By the time dessert came out, Grandma said the whispers had spread to every table. Whole clusters of relatives talking about it, she said. Your uncle told me one cousin swore you were in prison. Another thought you'd joined the military. Nobody could figure out why your parents acted like you didn't exist until this week. Then came the kitchen fight. Grandma said she was heading to the bathroom when she heard Mom and Dad hissing at each other near the caterer's table. Mom, this is your fault. You should have made him come. Dad, oh sure, because he listens to me. You raised him soft. Mom, don't you dare blame me in front of our guests. 2 waiters carrying trays stopped to pretend they were checking napkins just to hear the rest. Guests at the drink station went dead quiet, trying to listen without looking obvious. By the time the dancing started, Grandma said, the bride's parents barely looked at mine. They were polite, she said. But the kind of polite where you know they've already decided something about you. What about Travis's? I asked. Looked stressed the whole night, Grandma said. Smiling for photos but checking the door like you might still show up. His bride kept asking where you were even after the cake was cut. I shook my head. Yeah, no chance. Grandma said the bride cornered Mom before they left for the night. Why didn't we meet him before this week? Why wasn't he at the dinner, the party, anything? She asked straight out. Mom blamed work again. Said I travel constantly, have a demanding schedule. The girl didn't buy it, Grandma said. She nodded real slow like she was adding things up in her head. When the bride and groom finally drove off, half the relatives were still talking. Your parents left early, Grandma said. Didn't even say goodbye to half the guests. You know your mother. She hates when she can't control the story. I pictured her walking out stiff-backed while cousins whispered behind their napkins. Think the bride's parents believed any of it? I asked. Grandma let out a sharp laugh. Not a chance. People like that see straight through lies. They saw everything. The arguing, the empty chair, the stories changing every 5 minutes. They'll be talking about it for months. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time thinking about the whole circus. A full year without calling me once. Then demanding I drop everything so they could look good in front of strangers. And now, the strangers knew anyway. They gave everyone a front row seat to the cracks in the frame. The first sign came 3 days after the wedding. Grandma called again, her voice carrying that same mix of humor and disbelief she always got when things were about to go south for my parents. You'll like this, she said. The bride's parents aren't letting this go. I leaned back in my chair. What do you mean? They asked Travis directly why you weren't there. Why nobody mentioned you until the last minute. Why they only found out you existed 2 weeks before their daughter married into the family. And? I asked. He tried the same excuse your parents used. Something about you being busy, living far away, didn't work. They started asking around. It didn't take long before they started calling other relatives, cousins, uncles, even Claire, the family friend who once called me crying on Mom's behalf. The bride's parents were piecing the story together, bit by bit, realizing the version they got from Mom and Dad didn't add up. Your uncle told them, Grandma said. You moved a year ago and nobody noticed for months. They looked shocked. I laughed. Yeah, that sounds about right. By the end of the week, rumors were flying. Mom's bridge group heard about the kitchen fight at the wedding. Dad's co-workers heard the bride's family was asking why their son-in-law's brother didn't speak to his parents. Someone from the country club told Grandma they overheard the bride's father saying he doesn't like doing business with families that hide things. Oh, they're in damage control mode now, Grandma said, sounding almost gleeful. Sure enough, Mom called me 2 nights later. I didn't pick up, but she left a voicemail. Danny, this has gone far enough, she snapped. People are talking. Your father's reputation is on the line. The bride's parents are asking questions they have no right to ask. You need to call them. Clear this up. Tell them you were just busy. Tell them we're a close family. I deleted it without listening to the rest. The next morning, Dad tried. Son, he said, voice tight, you need to fix this. Travis's wife is upset. Her parents are upset. They think there's some big problem in this family. There is, I said. He ignored that. You tell them you were traveling for work, that we talk all the time, that everything is fine. You don't have to mean it, just say it. I laughed. Not happening. This isn't a joke, he shouted. I've got business relationships on the line. There it is, I said. This was never about family. It's about your reputation. 2 days later, Grandma called again. They're losing it, she said simply. Apparently, the bride's father canceled a golf game with Dad. Told him they'd reschedule when things settle down. They sit on the local chamber board together and share a Thursday foursome at the club. When he goes cold, other doors close. Business talk between them went cold overnight. Your dad's blaming me now, Grandma said, clearly enjoying herself. Says I made things worse by talking to people at the wedding, like I was supposed to lie for him. Then came the letter. Plain envelope, Dad's handwriting on the front, left in my mailbox like we were living in the 1950s. Inside, 3 pages telling me how selfish I was, how I embarrassed the family, how I ruined Travis's wedding by not showing up. At the end, a paragraph ordering me to call the bride's parents and correct the false impressions people were getting. I didn't even finish reading it. Took it straight out back to the fire pit, struck a match, and watched it curl into ash. The next week, Grandma called again, this time laughing so hard she had to stop mid-sentence. The bride's mother had lunch with your mom yesterday, she said, when she finally caught her breath. Told her point blank she doesn't like liars. Said she can smell dishonesty a mile away. Your mother came home looking like she'd been hit by a truck. I nearly dropped my coffee. She actually said that? Word for word, Grandma confirmed. Then the best part came a few days later. Travis's wife, now officially my sister-in-law, apparently confronted him after hearing all the different stories. She asked him what else the family lied about, Grandma told me. He tried to downplay it, said you were just distant, busy with work. She told him she doesn't want secrets in her marriage. Not from him. Not from his parents. I sat back, grinning. Guess the honeymoon's off to a fun start. Apparently there was yelling, Grandma added. A lot of it. Meanwhile, my parents kept leaving messages for me. Some angry. You think this is funny? You've humiliated us. Some desperate. Danny, please just call them. Fix this before it gets worse. And finally, the one that made me shake my head. You need to post something online. A nice family photo. Tell people we're all close. It'll shut them up. I didn't respond to any of it. By the end of the month, a couple of Dad's sure things had cooled off. Calls that used to get returned same day rolled to voicemail. The bride's parents stopped picking up altogether. Mom's social circle got quieter too, fewer lunches, fewer invites. Grandma said at church one Sunday, 2 women asked her if everything was all right in the family. She told them, depends on which version you heard. She said the look on their faces was priceless. One evening, I was out on the balcony watering the planter boxes when Grandma called again. They're panicking, she said. Your dad's furious. Your mom's crying every other day. Travis's wife keeps pressing him for answers, and the bride's parents won't let it drop. Good, I said. Your dad swears you owe him an apology. I laughed so hard I had to set the hose down. By now, the story wasn't just inside the family. Neighbors back home knew. People at Dad's job knew. The golf club knew. The country club knew. Everyone had heard some version of what happened, and none of the versions made my parents look good. And for once, I didn't have to say a word. They did it to themselves. 6 months later, Miami felt like home in a way my old town never did. I had a new couch, a table big enough for company, a grill in the backyard, and a half-wild dog named Rocket, who followed me around like I'd had him since birth. The leak under the sink was long fixed. The fence gate didn't squeak anymore, and the neighbors waved when they walked by. My parents? From what Grandma told me, they weren't doing as well. 2 months after the wedding, Travis's wife had stopped showing up to Sunday dinners. She told Grandma she was tired of feeling like she'd married into a family that couldn't be honest about anything. When Travis tried defending Mom and Dad, she asked him point blank why it took a year for them to tell her about me. Why they lied about me being busy, sick, traveling, whatever excuse they gave at the wedding. He didn't have an answer. They were already fighting by their 3rd month of marriage. Dad's work didn't recover either. That golf game with the bride's father never got rescheduled. Neither did the business meetings. Word got around about the wedding drama. People in his circle didn't like messy families. Deals he bragged about for years slipped through his fingers, one by one. Mom's friends from the country club stopped inviting her to lunches too. Nobody wanted to sit through her version of events when they'd already heard 5 others. They did it to themselves, Grandma told me over the phone one evening. You didn't have to lift a finger. By early spring, the house I'd been saving for finally closed. 3 bedrooms, a big backyard, a garage where I could actually fit my tools instead of tripping over them in the apartment hallway. When I got the keys, I walked through every room twice, just because I could. Grandma was the first family member I invited. She showed up with a pie and a big grin. This place suits you, she said, looking around. Yeah, I said. Feels like mine. By summer, the backyard was ready for the first big gathering. Rocket trotted around while Marco hauled bags of charcoal to the grill. Lisa strung lights along the fence. 2 neighbors brought coolers. Somebody set up a folding table covered with chips, salads, sandwiches, and a suspicious casserole no one claimed responsibility for. Grandma sat in the shade sipping lemonade, watching kids chase each other through the grass. This, she said, waving a hand at the whole scene, is what family's supposed to look like. I nodded. Music played low from a speaker. People laughed. Rocket barked at a squirrel climbing the oak tree. For once, nothing felt tense. Around dusk, I checked my phone. 1 new voicemail. Dad's voice. Family should stick together, he said, like the last year hadn't happened. Like the wedding, the lies, the yelling, the threats. None of it counted. I hit delete without listening to the rest. By the fire pit, Grandma joined me while the others ate on the patio. They still calling you? She asked. Sometimes, I said. Mostly Dad. Like nothing's wrong. She shook her head. They lost the right to pretend nothing's wrong. I didn't answer. Watching the flames felt better than talking about them. She patted my arm. You built something real here. Don't let them take it. I nodded. It wasn't just the house. It was the people sitting around the fire laughing about who burned the hot dogs. The kids tossing a ball to Rocket. Lisa dancing barefoot in the grass, while Marco tried not to drop the tray of burgers. It felt like a family, even though none of them shared my last name. Grandma left just before dark, hugged me tight before getting into her car. "You did good," she said. "Better than they ever did." I watched her taillights fade down the street before heading back to the yard. When the last guest finally left, the place was a mess. Paper plates, empty cups, Rocket licking crumbs off the grass. I stacked chairs, doused the fire pit, turned off the lights along the fence. The house glowed warm behind me, windows lit, music still faint from someone's phone inside. Another voicemail buzzed while I carried the cooler in. Dad again. I didn't open it. Didn't need to. Whatever he had to say, it wasn't for me anymore. I stood in the backyard for a minute, the night finally quiet, Rocket sitting by my feet. Mom and Dad could keep their empty house, their broken reputation, their cold dinners, and silent phone calls. They wanted a perfect family photo. They got the picture, just not the one they planned on. Inside, the house smelled like burgers and smoke and cut grass. Real life. The kind you build yourself. The kind nobody can take away. That was the last time I ever listened to a message from them. And the first time I realized I didn't need to. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.